Hey, my name's Julian Faust. Welcome to the Profits and Panels podcast. Today, I'm joined by David Rogers, the Vice President of Development over at Solariant Capital. David, thanks so much for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Julian. Appreciate the invite.
Of course, yeah. And I'd love to get started by digging a bit more into your background and how you got to where you are today. Can you take us through the whole, I guess, from where you started and then how you got into the energy sector?
Sure. I'm third generation oil and gas. My grandfather walked a pipeline. My father worked 44 years for Shell Pipeline. And I started while going to LSU in summers working for Shell. And out of that, went to LSU, got my undergrad and MBA, and then I took a job with Conoco because I felt that it was a pretty good hedge career wise, knowing that people were going to drive cars and turn on lights, and energy worked well for my dad, who was able to retire with a pension and put four kids in college. And I said, that sounds good for me. And I started out with traditional fossil natural gas exploration. Then I went to pipelines, a company called Tenneco, and kind of rode the deregulation waves because first natural gas deregulated and then power deregulated. And then I went to a company called Dynegy. A company was acquired by Dynegy, and that was in power development. And this was when the pre-Enron days, when people were deregulating electricity, or they thought they were, and they got halfway through it, and Enron pooped in the pool, and it kind of juggled things up. And at that point, I needed to find something that had legs on it, that had a sustained development path, and that was renewable energy. And originally in wind as a developer, really as an originator, because I had been in gas sales and power sales my career up till then. And then after that, helped find long-term power purchase agreements for wind projects and did that, and then kind of rode the markets. When that started to ebb, then solar became the thing. And I worked for a company called OCI. They're based in San Antonio. They helped introduce large scale solar PV, worked on as originator and as a developer. So I was making the transition to pure origination, commercial offtake to a developer because I felt that I needed to be a good developer to be a good originator, and vice versa. I needed to know the product I was selling, and I also needed the markets I was selling into. And I did that for solar. And unfortunately, the OCI organization didn't realize how competitive it was here in the U.S. They're based in Korea. And at that point, I realized, well, what's next? I've rode the wave of these transitions, and it was batteries. And so since then, I've worked for a battery developer, and now Solariant is doing both solar and batteries, both standalone batteries and hybrid solar and storage. And I do both origination and project development. I have two developers that report to me.
Which of your two positions in the past or now, development or origination, what do you prefer and why?
Well, I always feel, and I preach this to my kids, the hardest thing you can do in business is ask for money because you, as an originator or marketer or salesperson, for someone who doesn't know the nomenclature or the lingo, origination, you have to pull all these pieces together. You have to know finance and tax credits. You have to know operations. You have to know engineering. You have to know permitting because when you go to someone, they're going to ask you, why should I select your company? And you have to know all those pieces and be able to speak to or direct those questions to your SME within your organization. So I felt that was very challenging. That was playing the tough golf course and trying to win business based on a concept because you haven't even built this thing, and I'm going to build this, and in 3 to 5 years it'll be there, and I want you to pay me money for 20 years. So origination was really challenging, and it had a lot of interaction with other companies, and I felt my passion and drive, communications was the perfect thing for me. But then I realized after a while that I also needed those skill sets to develop. If you're going in, especially today, even in places I never thought would be NIMBY or not in my backyard, or saying, oh my God, the batteries are going to catch on fire and the wind turbines look bad. So even as a developer, you need to go into a local VFW or a city hall, and you have to convince people that you're going to do this right and it's going to be good for them. So I would say I lean more to origination just because of the challenge and the complexity, and I've done more of that in my career. I'm more confident in that. I think development is more binary. You get a project permit, you get an interconnection agreement. Sometimes that's tricky, but not as tricky as asking for money.
All right, so because you like origination a bit better, for you personally, what has been your most effective method for acquiring clients? But also, what have you seen as standard practice within the industry?
Well, I think it's inside sales. So it's not a commodity driven model. It's knowing that there's so many utilities and so many different people that you have to come to their region that have a little bit different rules. But I felt what served me best, where I would always be their free consultant. I would educate them on when I got into wind. A lot of my customers never did a wind farm or never did a PPA. I would give them examples of other PPAs and other RFPs, requests for proposals, so that I figured that if I educated them, I would win the ties. Meaning that if I went out of this way to make my customer smarter and everything, and my price was $48 and somebody else was $47.50, they'd say, Dave was a good guy. He really helped me out. I learned to trust and have trust him and have confidence in him. And then that was a technique that worked good for me. But in order to get there, it's a lot of jet rides, it's a lot of hotels, it's going to conferences, it's going to PUC, Public Utility Commission hearings, so you know what your customer is going through. You can empathize all the things that he has to do or she has to do in order to approve buying the electricity from your project. So I think all those things serve me well, and I like people. I'm a very outgoing guy, and I think I can elicit responses, and hopefully I understand what they need and deliver a product.
So, within the business right now, that's something within your control, but what would you say is the biggest challenge you guys are facing, excluding stuff like government regulation? What have you guys been struggling with, and how are you overcoming it?
I would say right now, batteries are the newest shiny thing, and solar and wind sell themselves. It's plug and play. Sun shines, electricity. Wind blows, electricity. Batteries are a time machine. Batteries are an ARB vehicle. So it's much more complex to make money because you're just moving things around. In California, early on, they said no more fossil. We're going full solar, full renewables. They figured it out early. Number one, the power prices were going to be so high. So throwing a little bit more for solar and batteries, who cares? But they went ahead and mandated and had a feed-in tariff called resource adequacy that said, okay, we know without natural gas and coal and all those other things, we'll need a device to help keep the grid on and balance out all those fluctuations. Right now, that model is not migrated across the United States. People are just now figuring out, why do I need a battery? Oh, wow, it's kind of expensive. So my my mission is, number one, to understand when I pick a point to put a battery, is to do all the analysis to understand, is that volatile pricing? Is there congestion? Is there a need to firm up supply or to match renewable energy with load? And so I have to understand all those things. So when I go in a utility, and I would say right now, there aren't many corporates, Meta, Google, all of those are just buying, plug and play as to leverage solar and wind in order to meet their renewable goals. They've yet to get in power trading and optimization. So for me right now is finding more people in the country that are ready to move on from solar and wind and then embrace batteries, and then either standalone or hybrid, where you put the battery and the solar panel at the same place. That extra battery is expensive. It certainly increases the cost of the solar. If you pair them together, you have to educate them and make them grasp here's the value of having a battery to firm your electricity. And that's probably my biggest challenge when I go to a customer, either corporate and some utilities that have yet to really embrace it.
Yeah, and the battery would bring back the highest ROI, right? But some people have a hard time comprehending that.
Not necessarily. The only way the battery can help you on a P&L is if, and this has been in sales since I think caveman times, buy low, sell high. So if you don't have an opportunity to charge low and sell high over 365 days, and the great example is in the shoulders. In the shoulders, it's cool. You're not running, your air conditioner or your heater and everything else. All in spring periods, you're not going to have that volatility unless there's something that hiccups. You'll have that duck curve or that period in the evening when solar goes down. And believe me, I tried to sell nighttime solar and nobody would buy it. And so then fortunately batteries came along and rescued me. But that duck curve, people are coming home and they're increasing their power demand, but you're losing the solar at that time. So that slice, people can price and do analysis and say, okay, it's worth this much money. So that revenue associated with batteries, people are starting to see that and they can calculate that. But then what you do with batteries, where solar and wind, you just buy for that hour of electricity and you generate that electricity and they buy it and they use it. You have to pay for the right to use a battery for a customer, and that's how it finances it. And it's called a toll, which is a cost per kW month or kilowatt month. So you take the capacity and you multiply it by a market rate, and it's like a demand charge or a fixed charge. So if you pay that every month for 5, 10, 15 years, in your own head, you have to know, well, I'm going to make money using that thing. I'm going to have traders that know when to charge and when to discharge. And there's a lot of AI and optimization companies that are trying to make money, telling people how to do that and make money. And that's evolving now, but there's no guarantee where you can lock in a fixed price for solar and wind and then get debt and get tax credits and everything, and then you're set. But it takes a sophisticated customer to know how to make money in a battery.
Within your day right now, what are some repetitive tasks you do, and what do you, how do you wish to eliminate them?
That's a good question. I think that there are a lot of scheduling tools that, I mean, it just starts with the basic. I use my calendar, and it's a basic, thing to make sure that it's on this phone, that if I knew I need to talk to somebody, even pick up the mail or go to the cleaners and everything, you put in a reminder or appointment or something, and then you tell yourself, okay, I'm not going to delete it, or if I don't do that task right then I put another date tomorrow, next week, or whatever, so that I'm and I have all those things checked off that I can do. Now, as a leader and as a manager, I make sure that I don't put any unnecessary reporting or meeting requirements on our team. There's a book, and it's pretty old, it's called From Good to Great, and it was some IBM guys 20 something years ago. And one of the tenets of a great leader, you spend 40% of your time hiring the right people that don't need so much supervision, that have confidence, but they're also good communicators so that you have regular touch points that are associated with that. I'm very fortunate the two developers I have working for me now, they go out and they attack things. And when they need help, they go, what do you think about this? And then I try not to get in their way, because the other characteristic of a level 5 leader, or whatever they called it, was that you take all the blame and you give all the credit, because you're trying to reduce impediments to their success. And I'm a big sports guy too. I think once you develop that trust and confidence, then that's a flywheel that will keep moving, and you'll have repeat success.
Are you a fan of Dale Carnegie as well? Have you read his books?
Making friends, or how to make friends and influence people or whatever. I actually went through a course uh, very early in my career. And I think there's some tenets, when you act enthusiastic, you are enthusiastic. And I think he understood a lot of those other things, but I think now that was an early version of a TED Talk. That was a version to get people talking about, responding to other challenges. And I think for his time and age, I think he had an engagement that was needed. And I think we need that now in a different way. Before we needed it because you worked in a cube and you had your own little area that you worked on, and you never understood how you fit in the large organization because you had millions and millions of jobs where, it was all you had your little slice of work and you did that. I think now it's a different version because we're remote. We don't have that friction with other people on our team. We're not able to get together and address challenges and things that hit us sideways and everything because of that remoteness associated with it. And I found out that I believe that on conferences where you go to learn things and find new seminars and new trends, I think the biggest value is that you get to see your coworkers that are in San Fran or New York or in Chicago, and you're at the same conference and your wife's not there, your husband's not there. So you're getting to go to dinner and meet and connect and understand each other. And I think that's something that good companies figure out.
The person to person connections, what you're saying, really drives business forward.
It sounds so rote and old school and everything, but we're people and people are making decisions. And well, I don't know, AI might wipe us out in the next 5 years, but I just think that being able to read a room is very important. And a lot of people who are very intelligent and smart, but I think they don't know how to read if their message is getting across, or if their instructions aren't being followed, or if they're totally confused. Do that on a square screen, very easily. And it's hard to mandate that to say, okay, 4 times a year we're going to meet, in Austin and figure all this crap out. I don't think you do it that. I think you have to create some kind of flow where you regularly touch base with the people that you're working with. And different companies have different ways of doing that effectively.
Has Solariant started using AI in their day to day to save time? I know we talked about repetitive tasks a little bit. Have
Right.
they done that as an entire company started involving it?
Uh, our founder he's based in Japan, and he started this company in the Philippines, in Korea, in Japan, in developing projects, both renewables and biofuels and everything else associated with it. And I think that as a rule, corporate, both US and Asian, haven't quite embraced that AI. I think where it's a very simplistic level. It's if you're writing a report or you're condensing a pitch or if you're doing, a layout on a PowerPoint, AI can give you suggestions, and I've used it. I think that because development, each site is a little different, you want to make sure you get in the weeds and you're specific and you've laid that out so that you've checked every box. So is it wetlands? Is there a road permit? Is there the interconnection, backfeed? All the things that you do as a developer and to get everything ready. I don't think there's been a learning model in AI that could effectively do that. And I think even if it could, the rules are different in Montana. They're different in Arkansas. They're different in New Mexico. So it may be able to pull those out and say, oh, you need to look at those things. And I think that would be a skill. But I think that because you're going to be in front of a public utility commission, in front of a utility, a corporate, all those other things, I think if you get deferential and start letting AI do a lot of those things, you don't understand it as much as like when I do a speech or whatever, I write it down, the whole speech. So I am physically engaged in the crafting of that message. And then if I need to tweak it, then AI can help in that regard. But that's just me from a personal standpoint. I won't trust AI until I see that it can do a better job than a human.
Understood, yeah. And within the next 12 to 24 months at Solarian, what is growth look like what does growth look like for you guys? Are you having a revenue goal set in place? Do you want to grow the team a bit? Like, where are you guys at right now?
That's a great question. I think right now we're at a pivot point. And In order to be in development, and this goes for a lot of the companies I work for, you're always having to rinse and repeat, and lather and do that over. And you get to a point where you might need capital raise or you may need to monetize projects. And at Solarian, and you can divide these into different types of developers. We're not independent power producer, IPP. We sell at notice to proceed. So we de-risk projects. We find land. We see the interconnection. We find out we make sure the local communities are supportive of that. And then we do that and we feed into a model that says companies like Pattern or Invenergy or NextEra who have the efficiency, they have the balance sheet, they buy the panels, they can buy the turbines, they can put all that together instantaneously, but it's a better use of their time and capital for us to be the boots on the ground, de-risk, and then get it close to construction, and then they'll take it and run with it. Because I think that eventually in the next four, now it may get it compressed because the big beautiful bill and it shrunk some of that, but I don't think so. I think AI is going to pop it back out once everybody understands those rules. You need more power generation in the next 5 years. You can't do turbines because there's not enough gas fired, and you can't do it everywhere. And nukes, I mean, I really don't see that happening for another 7 or 8 years. What do I know? Maybe that'll change, but that's going to be very expensive. I think for now, it's getting all those projects done. And I think we at Solarian, we need to pivot so that we're in sync where those markets are going. In the past, utilities drove that train. Right now, it's the corporates. So we need to figure out a way to align our development efforts to places that data centers or cloud computing or anything associated with that that's going to need that electricity, that we find a way to get the best tax credits, the best land, and the best interconnection. We're in the process of reloading the wagon, going back out with a new drive. The last 5 years, I'd say we looked at places where population growth, power demand, all those trends were going to make renewables more attractive. I think now it's a little different. Follow the data center.
David, thanks so much for joining us today. Where can our audience find you online and learn more about Solarian?
Okay. Well, I'm on LinkedIn, but you can get me at D Rogers at Solariant, and then also you can contact me. I also have my personal email. It's drogers at newvenergy.com. N-E-W, V as in Vector, energy.com. Either one of those will get to me.
Thank you, David.
Okay. Thank you, Julian. You have a great day.